Welcome, everyone. We just landed virtually in Costa Rica. Here we are today celebrating the Earth. The topic today is Food for Earth. We're talking about how might we feed the planet in a sustainable way, taking care of the humanity, the health of the humanity, but also taking care about the health of the planet. And I'm very excited because today I'm here with some friends that are in the educational sector and that are really inspiring people and teaching people how to do that. So today with me in Costa Rica, virtually, let's say, we have Arturo Condo, who's the one leading the Earth University. Today is your day, Arturo.
It is.
And then we have Simona Maschi. Simona Maschi, yes, it is. Simona Maschi, she's one of the greatest innovators I know. She's the one training the innovators, training the leaders of tomorrow, training the one that need really to implement the sustainable development goals that I see that you also have, Simona, really on how we can take the SDGs in something very tangible, implementing them every single day. And then we have the future, Denise. We have Denise Rotondo that is representing Bites of Transformation. And here we're going to talk about transformation so much. So let's kickstart this conversation. Let's kickstart with the only man of the session. So Arturo, I want to start with you. So we need really to implement a new educational system. Let us know what the Earth University is doing and how do you see the future of education, starting from your perspective.
Thanks so much, Sara, and happy Earth Day to everyone. And I say happy because we need to make it a happy movement, something that regenerates and creates the space and the context for us humans to be happy with ourselves, happy with nature, and happy with the future. You know, right now we're not exactly there, so a lot of work that we need to do together. So thanks so much. And so I think from an educational perspective, there are different things that need to change and the way we educate in general, but in particular in all the sciences related with food, right? Of course, we are at the core of that with agriculture. Earth University is focused on rural development, agriculture at the heart of it. And food production, of course, is the most important, not the only one, but the most important goal for agriculture. And I think there are four things that I think we do and are needed more in the system. So one is with everything that's going on, we need to teach, or rather students need to learn more than learning what others know, right? Not only learning from others, professors, or classmates, but learning from themselves, learning to experiment, and highly connected to design thinking, for instance. And Simona will talk about that. And that's not the case in any discipline much. But in agriculture in particular, we're very, very behind. The second thing is what to educate for, right? I mean, and agriculture and food, I mean, we need to have a bigger picture. And everything you said about people, planet, the future of humanity with social justice, that should be the goal of agriculture as well. In the end, it's an ethical question, but every university in the world, I think, should be asking these questions for their disciplines. In our case, for agriculture and rural development, is at the heart of it. So how do we generate the healthy food we need in a sustainable way, but in a way that also creates social justice? And then two other things, which is a more global perspective for their education and their preparation. And one is global in geography. We need to understand the world we live in, and we are interconnected. This pandemic has shown us, how frail, but also how connected and relevant to each other we are, individually even, of course, by countries. And we need that. So we have students from Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa, and that living together creates a different awareness, right? And finally, also a globality of perspective. We need change at the higher levels, but we need in agriculture to understand change on the ground, with the soil, with the farmers, with the practices, with nature. And those connections many times are missing in the policy discussions or in the policy decisions. And so we need to bridge that gap, which is what we believe we're doing by preparing the leaders that will do that can understand the 35,000 feet, but can also and have lived through the grassroots experience on the ground. So in a nutshell, I think that's what we need, and that's what we've been doing here.
And let's say that Costa Rica is really pioneering on this sector. I'm hearing a lot of interesting things about the topic of regeneration, how you are implementing many different policies really to accelerate this transition that is so much needed. And so I want to know from Simona, this connection with Costa Rica, what CIID is doing, because I met you in Copenhagen talking about innovation, design thinking. I met your students that are amazing, are doing incredible things everywhere in the world. But now you are leading a very ambitious project in Costa Rica. Why in Costa Rica?
Thank you, Sara. Thank you also for the invite and for bringing this discussion today. So yes, why Costa Rica? So, I represent like a design institute, and I, as you said, like I'm busy with training the leaders of tomorrow when it comes to design and creativity and digital technologies. And as many of us in the design field, we thought we were doing such a great job in putting people at the center of the decision making, learning how to do interviews, how to co-create with people. Some people call it like human-centered, user-centered, customer-centric, but this idea that design is a process for innovation that ultimately should bring value in the life of people and in their lifestyle and quality of life. And, Scandinavia and Copenhagen really stands out for quality of life and how digital technologies can really make it like easier and better for people. But we all know that now this focusing on people came at the super big cost for the environment. Paradoxically, the more we try to follow the needs of people, ever changing, always adapting, always becoming also more aspirational, the more we were possibly also creating negative impact on the planet. So which place in the world can, better represent this idea of respecting the planet, the biodiversity, the regeneration of nature, as you talked about, than Costa Rica? So that's why we decided to land in Costa Rica, to really create a living lab of sustainable solutions, possibly not just to be implemented in Costa Rica, but also to inspire maybe other countries and the rest of the world into how it's possible to implement new products, new services, new strategies that put both people and planet at the center of the decision making. And also, once again, Costa Rica is not just a place of great policy and great intentions and aspirations and visions, but also effectively a place in the world where there is a high concentration of biodiversity. And so we're actually merging together our background in creativity and digital technologies along with the background of biologists who are experts in biomimicry. So the practice of basically being inspired by nature, adopting some of the dynamics that nature has prototyped for billions of years into our decision-making process. Also because, as you know well, CID is all about building, testing, and repeating. It's all about prototyping. It's all about failing forward and trying new solutions. So we believe that actually nature is the best mentor for such a process, more than any kind of academic knowledge or scientific knowledge, to be honest. So we want to be infused, and we thought that Costa Rica was a great place. And that's why we are working there with our students and our team. And the idea is like to see how creativity can really help creating new visions for the future of production models and also new behaviors of people when it comes to food. Because as you all know better than me, it's not really sometimes a matter of technology. It's not really a matter of funding and financing. It's really a matter of like coming up with new visions that are sustainable economically, socially, and for the environment, of course. So we need creativity. We need to spark new thinking, and designers are known to, visualize futures that don't exist yet. Whether it's a chair, a table, a new beautiful fashion item, it's all about creating attractive solutions for the future. And now we need to take that toolkit of design to the level of designing new behaviors and new strategies for the future that still is about making them attractive to people. But it's more on the experiential level of how we live with food and how we grow it and so on. So not just food, but farming in general. So we believe we need designers, not just to come up with the most creative solutions, but also and especially to reframe the challenges to start with. And
I
so
completely
excited.
agree with you, Simona.
Yeah.
But before jumping to the bites of transformation, I have a question, because we all have been living now in this time in history during the pandemic, this big transformation in our own life. And we all are feeling so much the connection with nature. We feel that we need the connection with nature. But I want to ask to you both, how do you see this implemented in the cities of the future? How do you see this, say, pioneering approach that you are having, that we are developing here in Pollica, in Cilento, with the same kind of spirit, following the same, say, the same aim? So how do you see this implemented in a larger scale? Because with our students are completely aligned with our mission and our vision, but we need to replicate it at the massive level.
Well, I don't know. Personally, as you know, Sara, we also had some conversations about. I mean, the pandemic has been a big test for many of us in many different sectors that maybe were not intentional, but it's kind of slowing down. But ultimately, they created some new epiphanies, right? And also some new values that maybe we're rediscovering and so on. And for me, one of the key topics is like the actually really the meaning of sustainability, where we often have, and I know I talk on behalf of my own field and background, we thought that sometimes smart technologies would help like cities becoming smarter, and which means like better mobility, better health systems, better educations, and basically, paradoxically, making it easier for people to congest the city even more, right? I mean, so this idea that sustainability was a way to, was kind of enabled by, again, the concept of smart cities and so on. And so there was this kind of dichotomy between urban living and rural living, and urban areas and rural areas and so on. And I come from Italy, as you, where this is actually quite an evident. There are the big cities and then there is the rest. And I'm very happy that this pandemic has forced us to rebalance this distribution of people, efforts, data, everything, and show that maybe the way forward for a sustainable context for us to live within, it's not the idea of making the city per se the more sustainable place, but more to find a new balance between rural areas and urban areas, where actually maybe the future will be more of a hybrid in terms of like, where do we spend our time, where do we work, and how do we also, how do we prioritize the activities in the everyday. And I think there is a lot of work to be done in order to really enable a sort of redistributed way of living and working to create a more sustainable society. One of the key areas is education. When I mean education, I'm really referring to the primary, secondary, and kind of, the schools that are making families and systems and organizations a little bit more rigid in regards to this mobility, because most of us, I guess, maybe I don't know Denise, but we have kids, and it's not that you can really follow the flow by moving around. And you should know, and we all know, that moving around might be also a more sustainable behavior for us as individuals, to be part of regulating that offer and demand between the food production and food demand, right? It can regulate the dynamic between demand and offer in farming and so on. Imagine if we could be more like organically moving around to enable more local food to be consumed, to balance more the act and so on. So I'm just going a little bit off, maybe a bit more creative in the vision, but once again, I believe that when you talk about how can we scale that effect, I think it's more about rebalancing the dynamics between rural and urban areas. Facing new challenges in mobility, health, education, and all of that. But I'm super ready for that. I'm actually, as you know, might be very keen to the idea of also rediscovering the borghi in Italy and kind of the small places as you are. Yeah.
I fully agree, and I think actually following from that new balance, but of course we will have to see, food has to follow that balance, but maybe we can take advantage of this disruption to create it. So eating local, for instance, would change menus, right? Because if you eat more local, there are some ingredients you just won't have, but that's not necessarily bad. I mean, that would mean in many places around the world to rediscover local food, local cuisine, right? I mean, we all do pasta, we all do this, which is great, but then maybe we discover some of your what are in your roots right here in Costa Rica. We're working with the tourism industry to do that, right? Things that maybe hotels were not offering to tourists, but we'll start to using varieties of corn that are endemic from here, but are not commercially used because it's easier to import it from somewhere else. And the other thing that we need to innovate, I think, is also a different balance of who does what, because the a standard has been imagined in the Ministry of Agriculture in anywhere in the world, doing extension programs and supporting farmers, and that's not working, and it's not going to work fast enough for the changes we need to see, right? So we need a different coalition of private sector, public sector, academia for sure, NGOs. I see youth honestly willing and ready to get into new collaborations, new relationships, which is SDG 17, by the way, right? I mean, these new coalitions that we need to build to bring about change. So I think the pandemic is hard. It's not over. Has affected us all at a personal level, at a national level. But since it happened and it made us experiment, test something that we were not willing to test. Nobody could have forced us to stay at home for a year and see what happens, right? But we did. And so now that we've learned and that we have that, it would be a terrible waste, right? To not take advantage of what we've learned, what we can do with digital technology, having conversations like this, while at the same time cherishing the human interaction, right? The things that are critical for our hearts and our well-being. So I see opportunities, but they are not automatic. We need to act on those opportunities if we want to really see a change.
Yeah, thank you so much. And now I want to jump into the transformation, because with Denise, we met also through a program that is called Bite of Transformation. And I met many incredible youth that are writing down a manifesto that have been working for many months with experts from all around the world. And I want to learn from you, Denise, what came out of this process, because I was very inspired actually when I met your group.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to take part of this interesting discussion. I think, before I would like to say that I agree with the both perspective, especially on connecting the rural with the urban life. This is exactly what we are trying to be focused on, and I will tell you more. Also, my personal research project that is exactly focused on this aspect. Yeah, with Bites of Transformation, as Sara mentioned, we are working to write, it's a Swiss project, and we are writing the manifesto that will be presented to the UN Food Summit at the end of this year in Rome. And it's been a very inspiring to meet all the people around the world and work together to identify what exactly are the main areas of where we want to bring innovation in what is going to be the new future food system. And particularly the one where I had the opportunity, considering my experience with technology and digital solution, has been the part where we talk about digitalization and knowledge, the sharing of knowledge. And in particular in this part, we identified the importance of bringing new technologies and analyzing new data, but at the same time, the importance of using the current technology we have and the current information we have disposition to take a better decision. And in this exactly context is where it comes interesting to understand what is the role of technology in the digitalization to create a more sustainable food system. And particularly, this is where I'm also working on my academic research project, and it's focused on Latin America. So that's very interesting for me to be part of this session also for this reason. Because I'm trying to understand particularly how it's possible to reduce food loss and food waste at municipality level. And the reason why I choose this topic, it's because I was really impressed by reading that over 40 million of people in Latin America after COVID-19 will experience food insecurity. And also I was impressed by the fact that in Latin America, it produces over 6% of the global food loss. So that's a reason why, for me, I want to better understand what the technology and digitalization can work together to reduce, to address this issue. And particularly, what I'm trying, and I think this is kind of innovative approach to this, I'm trying to understand how we can use the food waste or reduce food loss to give access to nutritious food to people that have low income or marginalized people. So that's the big challenge I'm trying to achieve, and I found very interesting discovering by one interview that I recently done with the World Food Bank in Argentina, that it was basically in just Argentina, there is over 126,000 of tons of food loss. And by saving just 10% of this quantity, we could feed for 1 year 5 million of people. So that's for me very interesting to understand in this context how technology and digitalization can support. And here it comes to the point of Arturo when he was talking about agriculture and production, because apparently, at least at this first stage that I'm with the project, production is the area where there is the hugest part of food loss in the production area. Probably because farmers don't have a huge impact, huge knowledge of technology is still something that it's interesting for me to discover. But what has been interesting is to understand, for example, in this context, technology, how can help us to optimize the use of resources, for example. So when we talk about precision agriculture, or for example, when our technology can also support us to make better decisions on the analysis of the current data. And here is exactly where we are trying to focus and include this important and complex topic of technology into the manifesto, but also in general, also in my personal work, because I believe that's a key area, and would be probably the priority for local governments, for national governments, to address this issue and find solution to fight against hunger.
Yeah. Is this like, can we take it as a conversation, or you, Sara? Great. I know Sara is great because she asks the right questions and then she steps back. So she's an amazing facilitator. I mean, she's amazing at this because she's obviously like. Anyway, Denise, great to hear what your interest and your ideas. And I just wanted to follow up, not just like the challenge on people, you know, with no food and food uncertainty, but if we look at also the climate migrants, you know, like the idea that, if I remember correctly, in Central America alone, we're expecting 3.5 million climate migrants, farmers basically, by 2050. And I think they globally 140 million. So I am in the middle, and that's why Costa Rica and so on, of how can we bring the digital technologies to serve like some of the needs and some of the challenges. And some areas that we look at and we see as very interesting, where we believe as designers we could make a difference. The first one is definitely like the idea of collecting data, analyzing data, and use data to create services that can help farmers better navigate this ever-changing context, you know, because as we were discussing with Arturo this morning, you know, many farmers, especially the small family-owned situations, like, you know, they used to kind of replicate year after year what they learned from the previous generation, with almost like, you know, obviously some changes over the years, but never big disruptions as the ones we're living now in this kind of, you know, climate changing situation, where actually what you learned this year might not be useful for next year, because even like everything is changing at the pace that farmers cannot actually follow. So the idea of collecting data to maybe create better predictions and help them making decisions. And one of the key things we found out in our investigations in Costa Rica is that often farmers are simply lacking tools to communicate with each other and share best practices. A simple thing like a WhatsApp channel could really take them really far. And so digital technologies can help in that level, but also the whole, like, obviously when I'm saying collecting data, I'm referring to the artificial intelligence and machine learning, anything that, you know, can use data to enable better decisions. But also the whole idea of IoT, so Internet of Things, where basically we look at how we could make ecosystem of farmers, products, communities more connected. So for me, while artificial intelligence is looking at like making, like, you know, the data and the decisions more intelligent, in IoT we're looking at how the ecosystems themselves can become more intelligent. And there is, some of our students have done some amazing exploration that, you know, I will welcome everyone to look at. But then also the whole idea of again, how can we create like, helping them moving from, and this maybe it's more for the decision makers, moving from the idea of building and executing strategies to the idea of giving the farmers toolkits, more tactical frameworks for them to operate in the everyday and adapt and change. And then, digital technologies can also be used to help like individuals and the civil society to simply change behavior, helping people reducing waste, cooking in a more sustainable way, doing the grocery in a more kind of wise and smart way. And so I am totally excited about the potential of digital technologies across like the production, but also the consumption side. And happy to continue the discussion. I'm sure Arturo also has a lot of thoughts.
I wanted to add one thing, which is the market, right? Because part of the waste in agriculture is that you have rejection because they are not export quality, but it could be used for so many other things. So food processing plays a role, added value plays a role, changing menu, different, even promoting the use of, as I mentioned, more endemic species and varieties. So the market side is crucial. So we need both. We need the precision agriculture vision, including digital technologies, but also, looking at the market, hoping, influencing, and nudging behavior, right, of consumers, and they eating local, but also eating different, healthier too.
And I agree with you, Simona, on the importance to involve the farmers, especially the small farmers, because I think also on changing partners. We were talking during the manifesto, for example, including involving the farmers on sharing their knowledge, because they know how the food is produced, they know how to eat well, they know how to make compost, but cities and people who are living in the city don't. So why we don't use their knowledge and find a way to share this knowledge that don't get lost? And I think it's very interesting to understand how through technology we can do that, because sometimes the challenge we have is that farmers, especially the small farmers, are very far away from place where there is access to internet. But then it's also true that technology is not internet all the time. So it's finding a balance between those elements.
You have to come visit, Denise. Come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You should come and visit in Costa Rica. I'm going to come with you, Denise.
Let's
for
go.
Sure.
I already told you.
We have been talking about farmers. Today, we are connecting farmers, indigenous communities, also industries now that are leading this transition into regenerative farming methodologies and so on. So today, I started this morning at 5 a.m. in Australia, and I heard tons of incredible best practices. And this is really the celebration, the right way to celebrate the earth. And our companion in this journey is the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And we are really working with them so much because agriculture is the starting point. The farmers are the one protecting the environment, caring about the environment, caring about the soil. And so we have to start from there.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you really so much. I think you've been very inspiring. Now we all want to come in Costa Rica. We all want to come and visit you. I want to join your programs. And now we are ready to jump into another session and to fly to Argentina. You have been mentioning Argentina right before, and now we are flying to Argentina. Thank you so much, and happy Earth Day.
Thank you so much for inviting
me. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Wow.
Safe travel.